All right, I know that you all want me to join in your grief over the death of Congressman John Lewis of Georgia. And maybe I would, but the photo that they chose of John Lewis, I think makes me stand back and perhaps refrain from doing that. I will say, though, even though you see him here clutching hands with the two worst examples of our two-party system, President Bush, who is the worst president of all time of anything, and that includes, if you're a Yankees fan and you hated George Steinbrenner, yeah, I think certainly George Bush would be worse than him. Actually, Steinbrenner won some World Series. In any case, I think that John Lewis, despite all of this talk, civil rights icon, big mover and shaker, big kahuna, and in terms of all the things he did. I think that his legacy, if it is of anything in terms of Congress, the one good thing, and I'm going to do this because I don't want to sound, uncharitable. He did vote no on the war in Iraq. He wasn't one of those Democrats who did get swayed by this liar, President Bush, and vote for the war. John Lewis voted no, along with Cynthia McKinney, another Democrat who is herself kind of bonkers. But even people that have bad policies, bad opinions, they deserve to be remembered for good things that they did. And I know some of you will be harping on his role in the civil rights movement, but the fact of the matter is that I don't think that John Lewis necessarily he was a titan of the civil rights movement. He's a person who benefited with hindsight from obviously the fact that he was involved at that stage. Now, I have a relative, and I wouldn't say I'm very close to this relative, but she posted something which was Barack Obama's written tribute to John Lewis. And he said, in so many ways, John's life was exceptional, but he never believed that what he did was more than any citizen of this country might do. He believed that in all of us there exists the capacity for great courage, a longing to do what's right, a willingness to love all people and to extend to them their God-given rights to dignity and respect. And it's because he saw the best in all of us that he will continue, even in his passing, to serve as a beacon in that long journey towards a more perfect union. I first met John when I was in law school, and I told him then that he was one of my heroes. Years later, when I was elected a U.S. Senator, I told him that I stood on his shoulders when I was elected President of the United States. I hugged him on the inauguration stand before I was sworn in and told him I was only there because of the sacrifices he made. And through all those years, he never stopped providing wisdom and encouragement to me and Michelle and our family. We will miss him dearly. So that's just 2 paragraphs of his statement. The whole statement, I think, is like 6 or 7 paragraphs. And look, I would love it to be that this is a person who I would give, tribute to as somebody who is somebody I disagree with politically, but who is an honorable person. But I don't believe that John Lewis fits that mold, because I would say that people like John Lewis are exactly the type of so-called leaders that have made our country more divided in the name of representing underprivileged peoples. That's what they say, that they're representing underprivileged peoples, but in reality, they are using those people as a block, a voting block, in order to secure their own personal political power. And he is no less guilty of that than is Maxine Waters, no less guilty of that than were the old Southern Democrats, the ones that were the segregationists that fought against him. He is no less guilty of that than someone who, they get elected to Congress because they're, whatever, because like Elliot Engel all the time. Last month I didn't go easy on Elliot Engel, who, by the way, his election has officially been called. He's been knocked out of, he's knocked out by, what's his name, by Jamal Bowman. Elliot Engel took advantage of the fickle nature of the Jewish community and their attachment to AIPAC and their support for Israel to have them vote for him, even though he was a very mediocre and useless politician. And I don't think that community should vote at all as a block. I think that they should just vote based on what I would say are actual relevant policy issues. If you're a supporter of Medicare for all, which I'm not, I respect it that you vote for someone who's for Medicare for all. If you're a person who's for withdrawing the troops from Afghanistan, I am 100% for you. This is something that I think people should vote based on the things that are most important. If you're for gun control, yes, vote for someone who is one of these Bloomberg puppets. If you're against gun control like me, vote for someone who is against gun control. But don't tell me that because one person who is a politician has a reputation as being an icon of something and a member of a certain community that this person is worthy of supporting, because that's not really looking at them from a responsible standpoint. Funny story, New York Times posted, this is Marco Rubio apparently posted a photo of himself supposedly with John Lewis, but it was actually Elijah Cummings, who died last year and who was actually 11 years older than, 11 years younger than John Lewis. And both of them were labeled as civil rights leaders, although Elijah Cummings, I believe the only thing he really did was work to desegregate a pool in Baltimore, which is fine. I guess that counts as something, but a lot of the heavy lifting done in order to end segregation was already being done by then. But, props to both of them. But I would say that both of these guys, their one thing that I give them credit for was voting against the Iraq War, which when I was in high school, that was like the biggest issue of the day. Everything else that they did in Congress was basically useless, and I'm not afraid to say it. F. Marco Rubio himself, for I don't think that if you were a political opponent of John Lewis, you have to kiss his feet or try to kiss his feet and fail by posting a photo of somebody else who looks like him. And I know some people are going to say, well, do you think all of us look alike? No, these guys kind of look alike, except for the eyes. They're basically the same guy. One of them's older, right? I believe John Lewis was older, but they look the same. And I don't think it's racist to say that two guys look alike. Okay? I remember it was noted, this is something that was a big deal back in the day. Robert Horry and Will Smith look exactly the same. You could see it, especially when they were younger. See, Robert Horry of the Spurs, he was playing for the Spurs. I remember him when he was playing for the Rockets. That was a long time ago. And people knew it, and people couldn't lie about it. They just said, is this the same guy? Right? So it's not racist to think that two guys look alike just because they both happen to be black. Okay? It is kind of stupid that Marco Rubio didn't look at the photos himself and say, oh wait, that was Elijah, that wasn't John. Right? If he thought that it was so important to note his own personal experience with him. And that's what you do when you pretend to care about something which you obviously don't. I don't care about this person dying because I didn't know him, but apparently the media thinks you should. Here is something from Good Morning America.
We remember Congressman John Lewis and his gift.
So remember, this is a local congressman from Georgia, and supposedly this is a national issue.
To galvanize people to action, we leave you now with some of his most powerful moments and how he inspired others.
When you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, say something, do something, get in trouble, good trouble, necessary trouble.
Congressman John Lewis would want us to continue to make the kind of good trouble. John Lewis was very clear that unjust rules are meant to be broken.
We were at the White House with President Obama having the first intergenerational meeting of civil rights leaders ever. In that meeting, it was just a reminder of his gift, a focus on making...
So to be clear, the guy talking right now is DeRay McKesson. And while I don't think he's as full of it as some of the other BLM leaders, he is the guy who thought it was racist for well, I'll show you the story. So this people forget about this. So I think it was a couple years ago, and he said that Planet of the Apes has racist imagery because one of the apes, I forget which one. I'm not really a big Planet of the Apes expert, but one of them wears a blue vest. And who else wears a blue vest? Him. But it says does the Planet of the Apes poster have racially coded images? Notice the Black Lives Matter symbolism. Notice the ape with the blue vest. So that was Tariq Nasheed. I don't know, maybe he was trolling DeRay McKesson, because I think Tariq Nasheed is sort of just a guy who is trolling for donations and things like that. And then I guess Whoopi Goldberg dunked on him. And she said, so Whoopi Goldberg, this is how delusional DeRay McKesson was. That Whoopi Goldberg had to set him right, somebody who herself is completely delusional. And she said, DeRay, you need to go back and watch the 1968 original and check out what the apes were wearing. This has nothing to do with you. This is a movie about what happens when mankind doesn't pay attention to environment, to how we treat animals and each other. Get over yourself. And McKesson responded saying, if you have something to say, I'm here. So yeah, this guy. So they still continue to take people like that seriously. Okay, not Robert Horry, who has 7 championships from 3 different teams. Right, that's the person you should be. I think we should elect Robert Horry to Congress.
Make sure that we always tackle structures and systems, because that's how we change outcomes. And
by the way, sad story. I believe Robert Horry's daughter died of leukemia. He has like a foundation for it, so you can look that up.
Also focus on the humanity of the people around us.
It doesn't matter whether we're black or white, Latino, Asian American, or Native American. It doesn't matter whether we're straight or gay. We're one people, we're one family. We all live in the same house.
John Lewis really talked about how do we redeem the soul of America, and he communicated that message that if I'm not free, none of us.
So let's be clear here. 2 gay guys in a row.
Are free. None of us are free until all of us are free. And he really.
So suddenly we're reframing this black civil rights leader by having these gay dudes talk about it.
Really live that true essence of humanity.
I want to go forward. I want to continue to be part of an effort to make America one, where we lay down the burden of race, the burden of hate, and create one society, one people.
I know we'll continue to march. We'll continue to march.
Okay, so David Hogg, another guy who hasn't been important for almost 2 years. Nobody cares what you think, David Hogg. Your moment has passed.
Even after he's gone. And, in a way, that's how I kind of see his legacy.
If we can't teach the younger generations, they can't teach the next generation.
So a child that nobody knows who she is.
To follow.
Our children and their children will ask us, what did you do? What did you say? For some, this vote may be hard, but we have a mission and a mandate to be on the right side of history.
Well, hey there, GM.
So, sorry, Robin Roberts. This is another guy who died in Congress, Walter Jones. But first, let's go to the tribute to Elijah Cummings from last year.
Elijah Cummings.
Now, this is from the Today Show. So sorry, I couldn't find the Good Morning America clip, but I don't think there's a substantive difference between those 2 shows.
Had been a familiar face on Capitol Hill for nearly 25 years. A 12-term congressman known for his soaring oratory, Cummings ascended the heights of political power as chairman of the House Oversight Committee. Yet through it all, Cummings never moved away from the inner city of his native Baltimore. Elijah Cummings was one of 7 children born to South Carolina sharecroppers who moved north for a better opportunity. He credited his parents, both preachers, for instilling in him a moral code which led him into a life of public service and was the guiding force of his career. When riots erupted on the streets of Baltimore in 2015, following the death of a 25-year-old black man in police custody, it was Cummings who called for justice while urging calm.
We gotta go home.
And when the Maryland Democrat took a lead role in investigating the Trump administration, he defined for all what he saw as his chief obligation.
When we're dancing with the angels, the question will be asked, in 2019, what did we do to make sure we kept our democracy intact?
All the while highlighting his friendships across the aisle as a model of what could be, despite an era of deep partisanship.
Of all the people on this committee, I've said it and got in trouble for it, that you're one of my best friends. I know that shocks a lot of people.
And likewise, Mr. Chairman.
Cummings was sidelined for months following heart surgery in 2017. He later told his staffers his recovery renewed his focus on the importance of his work. A calling, he believed, to be the champion in Congress for civil rights and civility.
All right, well, so Elijah Cummings, I remember last year. Many people don't remember there was a reality before the coronavirus, but last year in November, here I actually pulled it up while they were basically like shining off his golden casket. But this was in August. Somebody actually burglarized his residence, and nobody ever found out who. So, yeah, this is a guy, he lived in Baltimore, and I guess people should bear in mind now that they're talking about ending police. So even a congressman could get his house burglarized. And some people will probably like pivot and say, oh, what does that have to do with it? It has a lot to do with it. These are people who, back in the 90s, not specifically Elijah Cummings, he wasn't in Congress at the time. But yes, John Lewis, they yielded on the crime bill because President Clinton wanted it. And it actually says here, after a meeting at the White House with Mr. Clinton, 3 Black Caucus members who had voted against bringing the $33 billion measure up for final House vote last week announced that they had submitted to his appeals to save not only the crime bill, but perhaps his presidency. He was selling his presidency, the party, and the fact that he will not get a better bill than this, said Representative Chip Rangel, a New York Democrat who found Mr. Clinton persuasive. Every step forward in a positive way renews the confidence that people have in the president. Let me see if I can find. I had it up earlier. So Chip Rangel, I actually miss for the wrong reasons, though. He looked funny. He had like very cool teeth, like the suave hair. If I could land this look, if I could make this look work for me and go to work looking like this, I would always go to work with a smile like that, right? Look at that. Doesn't he look like he's having fun in Congress? I believe, though, he did vote for the war in Iraq. Let me see. Maybe he didn't. I don't want to speak too soon. Did he not vote for the war in Iraq? Chip Rangel. Oh, he voted no. So yeah, even so, yes. Don't agree with him on anything, but absolutely smashing wardrobe and nice hair. So he flipped and voted for the crime bill. So, but he had great hair while doing it. Every step forward in a positive way renews the confidence that the people have in the president. You see, people don't appreciate that. I mean, I know I'm going to get in trouble because I guess in a manner of speaking, making fun of people who have passed away. But when you have guys like Elijah Cummings and John Lewis, like they were not very entertaining people. Like compare Elijah Cummings to Chip Rangel. This is him. Here we go. him just wobbling around on the streets of Manhattan.
On his 80th birthday, Representative Charles Rangel didn't look like a man facing 13
That's a person that
charges
should
of
represent me.
violations.
I think he's almost 90 years old now.
You did not look like a guy who was facing ethics charges.
I'm the best 30-second dancer you got to
Oh, is that what the secret is?
The secret
Keep it to 30 seconds.
You got to know when to start and know when to stop. How you doing?
You could tell. Look at his eyes when he's saying that. This guy's like 80 years old, and he's probably got like a stiffy. So like he probably doesn't know when he can't sit down, or else it'll look too obvious. So he's looking at Soledad O'Brien like she's basically the newest, like she's a quarter pounder or something. So this is actually a real member of Congress. You know, he's like, I can tell this guy. You know, I seen the look on the face of other guys. I'm sure that I've been caught giving this looking side-eyed and saying, "Oh yeah, this is a live one here."
I know when to start and know when to stop. How you doing?
Charlie Rangel, everyone calls him Charlie.
He's the greatest.
Now is not the time to stop.
With the investigation, is it going to hurt your chances of re-election? No. Not at all. Why not?
Why would any intelligent person scream for investigation if he thought it was going to embarrass his family and community or the Congress or the country?
While Rangel may be causing headaches on Capitol Hill, the lion of Lenox Avenue still roars defiantly in Harlem, where we had exclusive access to Rangel for 3 days as he campaigned for re-election while staring down and...
Look at him trying on blazers, looking at ties. This guy, when he dies, I will sing his praises to the heavens.
Ethics investigation.
Do you think it's going to impact the election?
Yes.
It is? How?
I'm going to get a larger turnout and a heavier vote.
Really?
This is great.
What became clear is that his re-election may depend less on the ethics allegations than on whether he's kept pace with Harlem's changing demographics. The capital of Black America is...
Yeah, I don't think it really matters. I think people on the street can tell a sharp dresser when they see one.
Now majority Latino.
I think the legacy of the congressman is really how he has embraced, how he has represented all of those.
All right, whatever. So anyway, yeah, that was one of the congressmen that I would support. Now, this Walter Jones guy also passed away last year. And the only video that is shown about it is this local TV report.
Walter Beeman Jones Jr. was born on February 10, 1943 in the Pitt County town of Farmville. The son of a lifelong politician and public servant, Jones would follow the same path. His father, Walter Jones Sr., served 14 terms in the United States House of Representatives. During a conversation with WNCT's Alan Hoffman in 2014, Jones looked through old photographs reflecting on what his father meant to him. This picture in particular stood out. In Washington, D.C., March of 1992, a young man and his dad.
So I kneel beside my father, and this picture was made with me kneeling beside my father, and he died in September of that year.
This is a special picture for you.
It is special because of my love for my father and the influence he had on my life. He helped me understand that if you're given the privilege to serve the people, you can do some good.
His father's 26 years in Congress sparked his son to politics. First 10 years in the North Carolina House, then 12 terms in the United States House of Representatives.
I'm a workhorse, not a show horse.
That bluntness all started when he changed parties from Democrat to Republican to win his congressional seat in 1994.
At that time, I felt that our party, the principles of the Republican Party, advocated what I really thought was in the best interest of America.
At the time?
At the time.
Is it still?
Not as much as it needs to be, and I think that is showing itself when you've got the fastest growing category in North Carolina is unaffiliated.
Jones served on the House Armed Services Committee, as he told WNCT in January of 2020.
So to be clear, this guy wasn't even a big Trump guy. He had a lot of criticism for President Bush, and I'd say even more criticism for Donald Trump, and he didn't merit even a second look by the national media, even though he was like a Republican that was he was a wobbly vote for Paul Ryan and for the Republican leadership.
12, at the ceremonial groundbreaking for the expansion of the Greenville VA outpatient clinic, he chose to focus on the military because of another family member.
Why are you so passionate about our veterans and the military?
Well, it really goes back to my grandfather. He was a World War I veteran, and he was gassed at the Battle of the Oregon Forest, and I never knew him. And my father never talked much about him, but I got my grandfather's records when I first went to Congress, and I found out that when he returned from World War I, he was in and out of hospitals. He had a drug problem, he had an alcohol problem, and was never the same person. Took his own life, as a matter of fact, when he was 34 years of age.
Jones said his passion for the military comes down to doing what is right. However, as he told 9 on Your Side in 2017, there was a time when he thought he made the wrong choice.
I will go to my grave.
So this is an important part here, because I've been grading a lot of these people on one issue and one issue only, how they voted on the war in Iraq. And this is actually a point where the other three, who I don't agree with politically, they were actually right on and he was wrong, but he acknowledges what was the problem.
Regretting that I gave George Bush the authority to go into Iraq. I had the concerns at the time, but I was not strong enough to vote my conscience. I will believe to this day that if Saddam was still in power, all these jihadist groups would not be growing out here in the Middle East. I really believe that.
Late in life, he held on to what he called the book.
All these are letters I have gotten back from families who received condolence letters. I've signed over 11,000 letters. I don't even read them. I can't read them because emotionally it bothers me that I sent their kids to die for an unnecessary war.
Jones also committed his life to preserving and protecting North Carolina's unique history and culture. In 1998, he passed legislation to protect the wild horses on Shackelford Banks. After that,
All right, so I think that's about it. My main point here is that we're being told, oh, this was a huge civil rights icon, John Lewis, and yet you see him holding hands with the two worst presidents in history, Bush and Obama, during that ceremony at the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And yet, okay, so you know, this is like rewriting history, you know, because he boycotted Bush's inauguration. So this is a person that he didn't have any regard for. He didn't like President Bush until President Bush left office. And he boycotted the Trump inauguration. And Lewis said it will be the first one that I've missed. And Trump tweeted wrong. He boycotted Bush. And so Lewis' office acknowledged Tuesday that the congressman also skipped Bush's inauguration in 2001. His absence at the time was also a form of dissent, spokeswoman Brenda Jones said. He did not believe the outcome of that election, including the controversies around the results in Florida and the unprecedented intervention of the U.S. Supreme Court, reflected a free, fair, and open democratic process. And nobody ever held him to account for that. That's what's like so galling, that once you get defined as a civil rights icon, it's almost as if you can't be held accountable and you're beyond reproach. And I don't think it should be that way, and I don't really feel like the country should be, basically making him out to be the second coming of Christ. But that's just me, and you can always come back and get, my perspective on some of these events. You can also find me on BitChute, Minds.com, Subscribestar, Gab, Library, and Parler. And have a great day.